msp-waves radio. It is now 10 p.m., 10:02 on April the 21st. This is the voice of Agrod. I am, oops, I just lost my co-host back to Globy, who is audio testing her. But hey, look, this is a Peace Academy. I'm sorry to go start that off with like a little bit of I don't know who plays fucking Eminem anymore. But that's what I did. I started the show off with "Kill You." I'm just kind of in a punchy mood, so I want to spend most of the show on abundance, and I want to go have an upbeat, everybody's happy, like yay, the world kind of talk. But man, I'm just frustrated. I sent a post out in the
Mm.
trending, and a lot of people went and like started flaming it. Wasn't awesome. Um, so that kind of thing. Anyways, I got Zippy back.
Hello.
Hey, Zippy, how you doing?
I'm good.
So
Globy put me in and then dragged me back out, so
yeah,
now I'm here.
awesome. Sound is muffled. Whose sound is muffled, Breeze? Who's muffled? Am I muffled? Is Zippy muffled?
Am I muffled?
Oh, that's good. Mine. Um, I don't really know what to do about that. Ag muffled. Um, I don't
Muffled the
think that the
ags.
mic is going
Muffled
to do
ags.
this. Yeah, that's the worst. Your mic is much lower than the music you started with. Um, that's the problem. So I don't know what I
Is
can
that
do.
like is
User
that like scrambled
settings,
eggs?
output
Muffled ags?
volume. How about this? Is that any better? I put that volume up. Can you hear me better now? Hello, hello, my dears. It's also lower Zippy. Oh, I've
Woo!
maximized my voice now, so it sounds the same. All right, lower zap, louder muffled. Man, so much live radio, people. What are you gonna do? I don't know what else to do. User settings, uh,
Figuring it out.
voice. Yeah, I mean, it's the webcam, which is this like relatively nice webcam. You changing your volume on Discord. I was messing around a little bit. I don't know what's making me muffled. I don't know what's messing with my volume. see what I did there? All right,
Yeah, I did.
perfectly understandable. It's just lower. All right, so let's go pull. I'm going to pull Zippy's volume down a little bit.
Get it, get
She's
it.
just overpowering me. And I
I'm
are you
overpowering you.
are you wearing a headset by any chance, Zippy? Because I can hear
Uh,
myself in the background.
yeah, I'm wearing a headset.
Is it near your mic at all, or is it loud for you?
It's it's Bose headphones with the little mic in the cord.
Weird. I don't know why I'm able to hear it, but I can. Oh well, Discord does it sometimes. All right. So Ron Dong is telling me that's just how it is. Um, okay. So I'm just in a funky mood. I was responding to a couple people. I put out my Q forum post. I went and I upvoted it with Bitbots. And I had a bunch of people that were like, wow, he's like horrible for the platform. How dare he use Bitbots? He's using a separate account to launch his own post. He's a traitor. I mean, I don't know. Um, I want to fight. Yeah, I'm here to fight tonight. I want to go talk about abundance, but it's gonna go start with some fighting. Zippy, when did you get here? It's only a couple. You've only been here a couple months, right?
Yeah, I think I technically applied for my account right at the end of December and it was approved. I think I actually finally logged in like right the 1st of January.
All right. Do you
So,
do you know what a hard fork is or no?
I mean, I have some sense of that. It's when they're actually making substantial changes to the blockchain,
All right, that's
right?
good. Do you know which hard fork we're in right now?
What is it like 20 or 20 coming up?
20 is coming up, which means that we're on hard fork 19. And Globy, you are certainly welcome. Um, do you know what hard fork 19 was called? Do you know what it was dealing with?
I do not. I
So
feel like this next one is dealing with the communities, right?
that's one of the three options.
Or
I actually don't.
velocity
Yeah.
or something like that.
So
Is that what this
so
one's called?
so the three ones coming up are velocity, SMTs, and community. So velocity is going to be about how quickly we can add new accounts, and they're going to create basically rather than a fee that you have to pay to create an account, you can mine an account. And that should make it easier to go add new accounts. So certainly getting
That's
into the
cool.
millions of accounts, that's going to be a thing. The second one is communities, and that basically all the shit that we've had to do to go create our own community account, where we're like, we had to build all these tools from scratch so that multiple people could access the same account without sharing keys. Stuff like that is now just going to be baked into the platform. That's communities. And the last one is SMTs, which is Smart Media Token, which is kind of turning Steem into Ethereum in the sense that you can just launch your own token after a couple clicks. And now everybody can go basically do ICOs on here and have their own coins and do equity coins or currencies or whatever. You have the ability to create new coins. But instead of having to run all of your own infrastructure, you just run it on the Steem witnesses, and you have like a built-in nearly 1 million account community and all of that. So that's what's coming. But do you know what the current one is? Do you know what we're on right now?
Well, other than it being 19, no, please educate me.
All
I
right.
need to be educated.
Well, look, this is all building into why I'm pissy tonight. But so basically, what we're on right now is called equality, and it's called equality because we used to have a different kind of voting rewards plan, and the old plan was called exponential rewards, and what we have right now is called linear rewards. And what our problem is, and what I've complained about since I got here, is that the distribution on Steem is totally whack. And the reason why it's totally whack is because Dan and Ned, at the very beginning of this whole thing, were reading laws about how you create new tokens. And under certain circumstances, you create a security, like a stock. And if you do that, you have to go register it, and you have to go through like a series of hurdles put up by the government basically to control a monopoly about how you can go aggregate capital and more or less give a handful of organizations and already wealthy people a first in, first out, or like a right of first refusal, or like a prima nocte kind of thing on being able to go invest in new companies, which can be extremely profitable. Okay, so now they didn't want to go deal with that. And one of the workarounds, which is a totally legal workaround, is you just start by mining. There's absolutely nothing, and then everybody can mine. And if you do that, it doesn't necessarily lead to being a security, which means that they don't have to go launch their own. They don't have to go register, form the company, go do all this stuff with the SEC. They just create the thing, allow people to mine it, and mining doesn't lead to securitization. So that's what they did. But they also wanted to own a lot of this place. So they made it available to anybody to go mine, but then they didn't really work as hard as they could have to help other people learn how to mine because they didn't want the competition. And this thing in its entirety is called the Ninja Mine. And
Then
since they ninja mined it, they've been giving away about something, or they've been spending about 14.4 million Steem per year. Um, but they mined initially up to like 75% of all Steem available at the time, um, because they wanted to own their own blockchain company, and they didn't really want it to be a company, but they wanted to have control. And then another handful of people, roughly 100 or less, were able to go do some substantial mining as well. And that's why on this platform, the initial distribution made it so that there's roughly 100 accounts that own somewhere around 90% of the Steem. And then,
that's crazy.
yeah, and the rest of the Steem is distributed between roughly 940,000 accounts. So
That is so hard to wrap the head around. It's
yeah,
crazy.
that's the distribution model that we have right now. Now, a good portion of that is non-voting Steem, because Steam it never they delegate some Steem, so it is sort of getting used. But at the same time, like the main Steam account that has like 50 million or 70 million Steem, I forget what it was last time that I looked, that's not a voting stake. So it's not all voting, so it doesn't all peer, so it's not like Steam is taking half the rewards every day, which they could by blockchain rules, but they said they're not going to vote, and they're going to use a lot of that to go help onboard new users, and that's part of where their 14.4 million Steem go every single year. Um, so
Just in that 15 delegation that they give to
um,
every new user.
yeah, and even they don't just do that 15 delegation; they also give a small portion. There's an actual faucet. So I believe you still get something like 2 Steem, and then you're getting 15 Steem as a delegation above and beyond that. So there's a faucet every time that they bring on a new account, they're spending 2 Steem to go create a new account. So,
Okay.
um, so that's the distribution. The distribution is a problem, and one of the ways that they wanted to get around that problem, the problem that it creates, is that the post rewards are totally effed, right? Like on this platform, if you think it's bad now, it was even worse during Hard Fork 18, because there were a couple different rules that basically made it that what you really wanted to do was curate, and I guess there were a couple things. The exponential rewards, the way that it worked is that if you had a mega account, but you're the only person to go vote on a post, your vote was worth much less than what it could have been. And that's because in order for your vote to have value, other people have to find that it's worth something. And that's what this R squared factor does, is that it adds an element of consensus. Do more people find this as valuable content? But the other thing that it did at the same time was if you were a whale, they took your SP and squared it to figure out basically what's the maximum reward you could give. So like if you consider a minnow and they have 10 SP, then the reward that would get squared, so now it's 100. But if you have like a dolphin with 10,000, you would square that, and now it's up to 1 million. And the difference between those is staggering. A dolphin had so much more say than a minnow because it was exponentially bigger. And in the same line, a whale that already has a ton of power on this platform, that power got squared. It was this absolute tyranny and oligarchy of basically just those 100 accounts dictating where all the rewards went.
That's insanity.
And as a result of that, we had on the trending page, it was the exact 10 to 15 accounts every single time. And part of the reason for that was there was vote buying that was happening behind the scenes, and there was vote swapping that happened behind the scenes, and there was a curation. The way the curation worked is that if you were voting on a post that nobody else voted on, you'd get basically nothing. And if you voted on the post that went into trending, then you can actually get a fair amount of curation rewards. So in order to go sort of game this whole system, what you did is you picked the 10 most likely people to go into trending, which were the same 10 people every single day, and you had to upvote them, or else you wouldn't have any curation rewards coming at you. And so that was Hard Fork 18, and it was in itself a giant clusterfuck where basically just 10 people were highly promoted. Now,
Yeah.
we switched that to linear rewards, and when we switched to linear rewards, it didn't matter if you voted on a super trending post or you voted just on a minnows post, your vote was worth the exact same. It didn't matter what other people thought. And in some ways, that's pretty awesome. It allows things like minnow support to work because now we can go vote for whoever we want and we can support whoever we want. And it makes it so that that minnow support bot can go upvote 4,000 minnows. We upvote like 4 or 5 thousand different accounts for a total of, I don't know, 20,000 votes in a 1 or 2 week period. And that's only possible because of linear rewards. And similarly, we have Utopian, and Utopian can only function the way it does because of linear rewards. And there's some good things about that. But the challenge, of course, is that self voting and bid bots became a much bigger phenomena because now a whale could just self vote and they could self vote in a comment. And whereas before, I just remember one post by James C. And if you go look at James C, he's one of the founding devs of Steemit, who no longer works there. He moved over to EOS. But he had something like 2.5 million Steem. And when he voted me on one of his posts, and he was the only one to vote on one of my posts early, it added a whopping $7. So can you imagine somebody like with 2.5 million Steem only adding $7 to a post?
That's
Um,
crazy. Yeah, that's, I can't even wrap my head around that.
so that was totally screwed. And so there were some definite frustrating points about that. I ultimately think that the exponential rewards is a better system, but not with the distribution that we have. As long as you have only 100 counts having 90% of the steam, exponential rewards is basically what do these 100 people think of your content? And that's hardly a way to go spread good content. Especially because most of those founders and the early miners are sort of pseudo autistic devs that are basically bound to their desks and their computers, and they're not like a bunch of artists and musicians and from like a million different backgrounds. They all come from this pretty narrow mindset of people in crypto that already know how to mine. That's a pretty narrow subsection of community and people as a whole. So they were the ones.
And they're not really engaging with the communities, right? They don't have any incentive or need to. They're just doing their own thing,
Well,
right?
I mean, that's kind of why I call them semi-autistic devs, right? These are the folks that like they could go program the programming equivalent of the Mona Lisa, but couldn't necessarily hold eye contact in a conversation. Um, so yeah, they're one of the reasons.
Brilliantly awkward.
Yeah, brilliantly awkward. What is it? Genius shit. Um, uh,
Genius freak.
yeah, no, I don't want to say freak. Brilliant, assant. What is it?
Savant.
Savant. So thank you. But there's a word that goes with it. Um, and not just savant. It's normally that there's two words of like idiot savant.
Yeah,
That's the term I'm
idiot
looking
savant.
for. So I mean, these people are like idiot savants that can't basically like speak to one another, but could go program absolutely amazing things. I don't really want to diss these people. Part of the reason why I think I've been able to go make it into the top 20 as a witness is because I provide a function that the devs themselves couldn't, which was unite lots of people together under sort of a common group, and form some level of community, because a lot of them can program their ass off, but again, can't always hold conversation. Um,
Right.
okay.
So, can I just ask
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds like the last hard fork wasn't beneficial and was kind of a shit show, and this is clearly also turned into its own version of a shit show. Um, what do you foresee as being some solution, or do you feel like the next hard fork is going to offer something that's going to fix this at all?
No, the next hard forks won't fix this. The closest thing might be SMTs. Um, what do I? Where am I going with this? Velocity is just going to add more people, and adding more people might make the price go up, but it's not going to change the distribution very much. That's what I think. Maybe if the price goes up a lot, then you'll have a lot of the devs sell, and maybe we'll have a better distribution. But I'm not. That's not a guarantee. They might just keep their steam and keep voting and bid botting, uh, and hopefully just
Were you
getting more money. Um,
were you saying that part of this, that it is going to be possible to mine
they're going to
after
be
with these next forks?
they're going to mine new accounts. It's not the same as mining Steem. I mean, back in
Right.
the day, you could mine Steem like you could mine Bitcoin, and like early mining for Bitcoin, you could actually get quite a bit of Bitcoin in the early mining stages. You can't do that anymore.
Right.
So all of this comes down to um, there were challenges. Equality can be awesome, but not with the current distribution. So I actually think that this whole thing was a backdoor hack to basically get um, a way for minnow votes to actually count for something, and they switched to linear voting. And linear voting made it so that you can now upvote yourself. So the benefit was that a minnow's vote literally increased by an order of magnitude or more. So, if I don't know, when you vote 100%, what can you put on a post?
Um, Thanks to your generous delegation, I think at this point it's about, if I'm at 100%, I think it's like 18 cents.
Okay. So before it would be about 2 cents. That's literally the difference that's made. So, the difference between 2 cents and 18 cents, yeah, it's ninefold. It's also only 18 cents. In some ways, it's a huge deal. And another way, it's still kind of a small who gives a shit difference. But honestly, I think for the minnows collectively across this platform, it gave them quite a bit more say. The challenge that came with that is that the whales that don't that are an investor class and don't always think curation is the most important thing for them could start self-voting, and now they don't need consensus. They could go write nice post, upvote it for 100%, and literally give themselves $100 for that.
And then circular vote and do that umpteen times.
Yes, yeah, a
Yes,
lot
I've
of
seen that.
trending has a handful of people that keep circle jerking themselves into trending, and it's pretty obvious that it's the equivalent of self voting, and it's not good for the platform. But the challenge is you can't sit there and downvote this stuff because revenge flagging is a thing, and it
Oh, it's happened to me.
yeah. So it makes it so that um, that kind of sticks there. And in order to clean that up, you need another whale to basically go in there and downvote it. And the challenge with that downvote is that, hey, look, if I go and I upvote something and I'm a whale and I put $100 on a post, I'll get 25% of that back. I'll get $25. If I go and I attack a circle joke post and I flag it for $100, I won't get any of that curation. So every time that you ask a whale to do something like flag abuse, you are asking them to sacrifice, in this case, $25 or 25% of their vote worth. Um, and the whale class is an investor class. And while some of them are willing to go selflessly give up their rewards, a lot of them are like, fuck that. I want my curation. Why should I go spend my money to go fight abuse? It costs me money to go police this place.
Yeah, it seems like it's a tricky thing to get around. I'm noticing Normock is asking a question in there. Do you see that about what
What incentive
incentive?
would they have to increase distribution if there's increase in accounts price of Steem? Well, the reason why they would do that, when Steem goes up to $10, like a whole bunch of the developers, Steem was at 9 briefly in December or something, and a lot of them freaking tossed out their. A lot of them actually sold Steem. They sold like hundreds of thousands of Steem at that point. Why? Because it was worth a lot of money and they could finally get a return on their investment. Okay, I actually think that makes sense. And then what happened to the distribution? Frankly, it improved because now it gets less concentrated. So you need the price to go up so that these guys are actually willing to sell, so that the distribution changes, so that more people own the Steem. Now it's possible that just Kim Kardashian is going to come in, or I don't know, Mark Cuban is going to come in and spend a $100 million and just buy a lot of Steem, and the distribution won't change. But I don't know. I'm somewhat hopeful that as the price goes up, more people are willing to sell, and the number of people that could actually afford to own a large stake in this place will get fewer and fewer. Um,
We can only hope, right?
we can only hope. And it's good for the rest of us, right? We want the price to go up, and because then our posts are worth more, and there's good things that come out of that. But another thing that happened out of all of this is that bid bots suddenly became possible. Before, you would have to have consensus, so it would be really hard to run a bid bot unless you were already voting, unless you were like one of the people in trending. Then you could go buy votes on your bid botted post or up on your trending post, and you could make money. But in Hard Fork 18, if I wanted to go get a bid bot and just put it on my post, it wouldn't be worth a lot of money. So that would actually be pretty challenging to manage. So out of Hard Fork 19, when we started having this different linear reward system, bid bots suddenly became available. And not only available, but pretty prevalent, because now the bad side is that they sort of screw up curation for everybody, in the sense that 1 or 2% of the overall voting pool is just going to purchased votes. But the benefit of them is that an investor who doesn't care about some Venezuelan's coffee recipe, and doesn't care about, your song, and doesn't care about my truthing, they don't give a shit about any of that. They just want an investment return. Well, now they can go buy Steem, hold on to that Steem, put it on a bid bot, and it will generate them a steady return. And that makes it appealing for investors to go purchase. It does, however, sort of skew how rewards go. But in my mind, what we used to have is this very, very narrow group of people that were always in trending, and they would upvote themselves and circle jerk their posts up into the trending, and it was the same 10 to 20 people every day. You don't hear that same concern now because now lots of different people will go purchase bid bots and get into trending. Now you hear is, these assholes are spending money on bid bots and that's how they're getting into trending, and we should go burn them. Burn those bastards. They're terrible. So,
can I interject on
yeah,
this
go
one?
for it, Globy.
So we are on the subject of bitbots.
Yes.
I just graduated to Dolphin.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Congrats, dear.
And well, thank you, Zipporah. And by the way, you are an awesome person, Zipporah. You're awesome to have on here on Agro Show and to have on any of the shows that I'm listening to and see in the audience. So thank you for joining MSP. And
thank you very much. That's very kind of you.
You're welcome. What I want to say, Ag and audience, is people don't understand business. Bitbots can be used and ought to be used for advertising. That's the way I see it. I support an account called Planktown. It's a business. It's a new invention that promotes Steem in a caricaturical way, if that even is a word. My English is not that great, so excuse me, please. But the founder, the Bugger Q&I, put a lot of dollars in there, tangible stuff that we worked for very, very hard. And we put about $300 worth of bitbots in there. And we find ourselves in a situation where our creative work is downvoted by people who don't understand business. I see it as an advertising tool if it's used right. I don't agree with bitbots being used for spam to make money. As a matter of fact, Ag, the ROI, the return on investment on a bitbot is usually negative. You're lucky if you make a dime on it. The only reason you really want to use that kind of tool is to increase your exposure to the wider community. And I've done a lot of analysis, and you have seen one of them. I laid out for msp-waves. We used that, and we put $400 in it, and we made hardly even. But it gave us an exposure and therefore a increased listenership. So it's an advertisement tool. Is it okay though, Agod, if I mention names here? Because I think it's important that we understand who is behind downvoting users of bitbots and where their real stake is at.
What's the account, or where can I find that post for trending? I saw it, but I don't see it in trending anymore.
So it's at Planktown. It's only one post. And the major downvoter, if I may, was Beans. And I disavowed Beans after...
I was really curious about that too. I was surprised to see that Beans downvoted that.
Let me finish, Zipporah. I investigated Beans. And Beans is, she's got a reputation of, I think, 67 or thereabouts. And none of her SP is her own, for one. So I looked further. Who is delegating? So she has no stake. Her 50K delegation comes from a what? Bitbot called Upme Whale. Now, is that not criminal in my humble view? Beans is a criminal in my humble view.
Upme Whale or just Upme?
So all you have to do is go to Beans and follow the money. Who stakes her? The delegation comes from Upme Whale. Now who's Upme Whale? It's a bitbot. What the excuse my friend. So Beans is full of beans as far as I'm concerned, and that witch from hell uh, lectures us on a minnow account on
Oh,
the use
and
of bitbots.
no, it's coming from Smooth. So
Yeah, smooth
yeah,
B, but go further than that. Smooth B is is nothing but a shadow account. Go further.
well, no, Smooth B is from Smooth, as in the witness
No.
Smooth.
Smooth B goes. Everything Smooth B earns is coming from Up Me Whale. Argo.
Um,
Go go
that's
deeper.
possible. I wouldn't be surprised if Smooth runs a Bitbot. That would make a ton of sense.
No, just go follow the
All right,
trail. At least
Follow the money.
Up Me
Smooth
Whale. Follow the
dash
money.
V.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there you
So
see. And there you see,
yeah,
Beans receives all her stake that she uses to downvote minnows like Plankton from a Bitbot account that she makes money from. How criminal!
yeah.
What the fuck is that?
It looks like she's just um, Up Me Whale looks to be a community account that people can go delegate to and will get money back, sort of like MSP Bidbot. That's my guess of how this thing operates. And Smooth B, which is just one of the accounts that Smooth runs, is delegating to it. I think that Up Me Whale is just it's like a business Bidbot. I think that she's probably paying Smooth for 50,000 delegation, or Smooth is just delegating 50,000 Steem power. Either
Well,
way,
whatever it is, does it sound honest to you?
I'm not against delegation. I mean, that's the thing, right? So
I'm not either. I'm just against the notion that a stakeholder who has no stake at all, no SP on their own, because Beans is full of beans. She doesn't have any SP. Look at her account. And
yeah,
she uses her delegated power to downvote minnows for using
Don't cross Globy.
and you know what?
said you don't want
Bitbots
to fuck
are
with
used.
Globy.
If you understand advertisement, it is an advertisement tool. So we use $300+ hard-earned money. Every dime was hard-earned into Planktown, and this person stole $10. I couldn't care less. It's the principle of it. You know, we made long up for her failure to recognize. But what I need people to understand, and that's why I'm on here, Ragot, is to have people understand that bitbots can be used for the good and the bad, as can weapons be.
Yep, yep. No, I'm a firm believer in that tool. Sort of like a gun. A gun is a tool. Um, a Bitbot is a tool, and if we as a community go and use these tools in a way to,
Responsibly.
yeah, if you use them responsibly, and everybody has a different definition of this. I mean, I think a real risk with using Bitbots is that you have a chance of getting flagged. Like, so I put out my post that is both a conspiracy post and a news post that we are going to go host a forum. And Meerkat downvoted that for $28. Bloom downvoted that for $2, and Liberacis downvoted that for $3.
What the
So
what the fuck? Argo, what the fuck is wrong with Bloom? Sorry, my French,
Yeah.
but is the guy suicidal? Is he just stupid, or what is that?
Globy.
I think that he is a leftist and sort of looks at, how do you so I don't know. I think he thinks that I'm like a little bit extreme. There were people that were using Minnow support to go put out like nasty images of Jews. And I have Jewish family. It's not like I want that stuff to exist, but he wanted me to sit there and flag it and remove votes. And I said no. Some of the mods might, and I'm not going to stop them from doing that, but I'm not the person that's going to go do that because I believe in liberty. And I don't think that they should run around making terrible images of Jews or anybody else. We're all one people. We're all humanity. We should be kind to one another. But I don't think that we are going to solve the debate by silencing the opposition. And so that's what he wanted, and I told him no. So I think he looks at me as some alt-right asshole that refuses to stop hate speech. But I think hate speech and that sort of general group of things, while at times can be used to go inflame violence, and that's where I would draw the line. But otherwise, I think that people should have the right to say hateful things to one another, maybe not in the mental support community, but sort of in general. Um, and and I think that the way you deal with that is to have a conversation about it. You put a post about it, and you
Oh,
say,
you know,
"Look
the
at this
thing though
content."
is that you can converse with either beings, which I tried to do, or that the character who names itself Bloom, Zipporah. This guy is, first of all, he never posts, and so you can't actually counter anything. He only downvotes, and he downvotes in the last minute where it is possible. So 12 hours before a payout, it's shut down.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that,
I've invited him to come argue with me and try to have a debate about.
oh, I invited him several times, and he downvoted the invite. I don't think I've said
That's kind of funny.
I mean,
yeah.
at
I mean,
some point, you just have to laugh. I mean,
You
yeah.
have to.
Now that I'm a dolphin, I do laugh. But you know, it wasn't that easy when I was very, very little, and it counted. And he would downvote me. And you know, the thing is, he wouldn't just downvote me. He would downvote those who would upvote me.
yeah. I mean,
What?
that's yeah. So there are some haters on here. There are people that act poorly. I mean, this to me is a
I think
giant game.
you phrased that beautiful. There are some people who act purely. You're just so lovely phrased, I have to say.
Well, I don't know. Whatever. You just
I'm
like
not that
I
nice.
look. It's $10. You know, Beans has her own issues and has her own things. I mean, I do think that in that case, when you have 50,000 Steem that's either delegated to you or that you're renting. I mean, I've gotten into me and Acidio have sort of been mocking each other at times. I love this dude. I think he's one of the best guys on the platform. So
Agree.
whatever you hear me say next, I'm like trying to go rib him. I'm trying to go ingest about what I think extremely highly of Acidio. And but he rents a lot of Steem power. So when he has like a 200,000 Steem power, it's because he rents it. And he was shitting on me for a period as when the price goes up. And this is a secret that I'm going to share. This is meant to be about abundance, so I'm going to go give you guys some hints. When the price is rising, what happens is that when the Steem price goes up, your post rewards go up. And so if you want a strategy that can actually, right now, if you go use a bid bot, you're going to realize that there's not a lot of return on bid bots and that there's typically a negative ROI. If you're lucky, maybe you squeeze in 2 or 3% ROI and you're able to both advertise your post and get a small return, but generally even that doesn't really work. But here's the thing. When the price of Steem goes up, your post rewards go up. And so when we're at the bottom of the market here, if you go through my wall, you'll notice that I started using bid bots again to go upvote my posts. And the advantage of that is one, I delegate 80,000 Steem power to the community, so I don't have a big vote. So this is a way for me to go help curate the people that have actually voted for me. But two, it's actually one of the few times that now that bid bots are common enough and sort of popular enough that there's normally a negative return, it'll look like a negative return on Steem Bot Tracker, but then the price will go up and the value of your post goes up, and so you actually can make money doing this thing. So I've started using bid bots again, and that I was doing this back in December when we had this sort of meteoric price rise. I just fucking filled my posts with as many bid bots as I could, because not only was I making at the time I would get like a 5 or 10% ROI, and you can't do that anymore, but at the time I could. And then not only was I getting 5 to 10% ROI, the price was going up by $1 or two, and you could within that week I was watching my earnings, not just of like the authentic votes I got, but also of the bid bot votes I got, go up by like another 10, 20, 30%. And it was extremely profitable to do that. And now is another time that I can do that because now the price is going back up. The market is no longer correcting. We seem to be in a bull trend. And so now I can go buy bid bot votes, increase the payout of my post, which ultimately just speeds up how quickly I earn SP, which means that's just how quickly I then give it back to the freaking community bots that I'm working with. But
That Agod, if I may stop you in your tracks, because you're almost unstoppable, Superman, as I said earlier in my show. I have if you don't mind, a constructive criticism from my end.
sure.
There was quite a harsh criticism on one of your posts that was related to QAnon, and you used Bitboards, and it came up to what, $300 or $500.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was like 2 days ago.
Yeah, and there were real haters on there,
Yeah.
and it seemed to me that these people upvote themselves to the top of the list to A, get their account seen, and B, probably make a dime off it as well. Now, the only thing that I would say to you, Ag, is please respond to these guys,
Oh, I did.
because
I did
oh,
today.
did you?
So
Oh,
I did. I gave it a day, and I did that on purpose because I don't know if you heard the beginning of my show. It started with "kill you" because you don't want to fuck with Shady, because Shady will fucking kill you. Like what actually happened was I was rereading all of these fucking hater posts, and I was just getting mad because it's like, look, you guys don't understand economics. You don't understand how to make a profit here.
exactly.
You are blaming other people inventing, and it's really your poor understanding of how math works, of how economic works, of how the blockchain
Exactly.
works, of like building relationships. Like
No,
I'm getting accused of
can you read the response? Because what one guy said, "Oh, I'm going to remove my witness vote from you, and
yeah,
I'm going to tell
that's
everybody else to
Jason.
remove the
That's
witness
Jason
vote."
Chick. So here's what he says. We have a rabid bidbot problem on this platform, and you are one of the top witnesses here. Instead of leading by example and trying to promote content without the use of bidbots, you go the opposite direction and use over $300 to promote this post. Good enough reason to take my witness vote away. This is a type of behavior that really detracts from the platform. I know it's not just you doing it. I recently removed my Banfield witness vote for similar actions. This is both a user problem and a bot creator problem, just joining in on the fun. The new users coming in on the platform see this activity and learn that the only way to succeed here is through vote purchasing. We, the Steem community, will never reach our full potential without certain restraints on bidbots, as you, as witness number 12, need to lead by example. So here's my response. You understand I own half the SteamBotTracker.com website, question mark. I did that early on because I thought then, as I do now, that as long as we're in Hard Fork 19, that's the reality of how the platform works. More importantly, the bidbots are a transparent way for anyone to receive advertising and a way for investors to be rewarded without having to scroll through content they don't give a shit about. It makes it so that the price of Steem is elevated, and now anyone on the platform has the ability to get attention to their posts, and not just a handful of connected whales that were circle jerking and vote selling on just a handful of people. I fought Hard Fork 19. I launched posts calling it a circle joke and a clusterfuck. No one listened, and I don't think Steem is going back to exponential rewards. So the best thing to do is work with bot owners to implement whitelists, blacklists, and try to take away shit posts. I have a right to spend my money to buy votes, which supports this platform as a whole and makes it so other people want to own Steem. You can't simply make bidbots vanish, and even if you could, you'd simply shove vote selling into back rooms again. I agree, things should be done making a separate pool for downvoting to make it easier for price discovery without costing anyone curation rewards, and adding a downvote button which would impact rewards but not rep, so you're not threatening the livelihood of an author when you flag. Overall, these are good suggestions that will help, but they aren't as important as what Steemit is working on now, namely velocity, communities, and SMT. So I support their plan and will wait till those other projects are done to fix curation. In the meantime, if you're pissed about spammers taking advantage of the bots, which hasn't really been possible for the last month, then I suggest you use bidbots on good posts, otherwise a terrorist will win and can more easily purchase votes. I have a radio show on Sunday night at 9 p.m. EST. Come on the air and talk to me about this, and I'll publish the recording. Shows in
Oh,
PalNet. Maybe I'll see you there.
I'm
Good
giggling
job,
away. I'm giggling away. But to just put that in
Globy.
one sentence, understand business, understand advertisement, for heaven's sake, you idiots.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just mad. I'm mad about it because bidbots are a way, the guy that created this is Yava Pimat, And when he created this, one of the reasons why he was enthusiastic about it is that as a minnow, he found it incredibly hard to get any attention on his posts. And he's a smart developer. He's a really charming guy. He's a really good writer. He was writing about how you could go get rid of your 401k and go create a method to have a basic Steem-based retirement plan and have it be a legal entity so that you could actually put your retirement money in that. And it was a really good fucking plan. If I didn't just sell all of my stuff at a loss just so that I could get into crypto, that's what I'd be doing. Um, but but he's awesome, but he couldn't get any traction. And so what he did is he started using bid bots on all of his posts. And it wasn't like he was spending millions of dollars, but he was putting $3 here and $5 there and $10 there, and he started getting traction. And so you can use bid bots to basically help raise up your rep, help you as a new user on the platform, help get some attention. And that's one of the reasons that he created that site in the first place. And I looked at that and I said, this is how this can be done appropriately. And it can be done inappropriately. People can go put it on shit posts. But, ultimately, if enough people use them and we sort of get rid of the stigma that using them is bad, then people that have money and want to go spend that money here to get advertising by basically boosting their post rewards have a means to go do that. And investors that want a way to go own Steem, which basically elevates the price for the rest of us, they can go own that Steem, but not have to go manage curation or interact with the community or anything. We can have an investor class here, and I think that's good for the platform overall. Well,
I agree. Can I say something? Can I jump in?
Sure.
I've been waiting, but between you and Globy, it's like,
I know. We're a bunch of...
No.
I'm pissed,
so
he's pissed.
You guys are totally pissed, and that's great. I love it because that kind of passion is what will affect change. So good, be pissed. I just wanted to say I stopped using bid bots. I tried it out for a minute. I was not stoked with the negative ROI, but I've been using Smart Market, and I'm whitelisted. And I basically just decided it was worth it to invest in myself and it's good for my morale to see a little bit of earnings. It's kind of like a way that I've been tricking myself into powering up my SP, kind of like you said.
Paul, can you repeat what you just said? What have you been using?
Smart Market.
Smart Market. So Smart Market, they actually have a bid bot. They have the Smart Steem bid bot.
So what's different using that service versus?
So yeah, I'll explain. So you have to register to be able to buy votes. So there's a couple different services. You can buy votes, you can sell votes, and you can also use their bid bot. You can also delegate to them and then earn that way too. But if you apply to be whitelisted, I think it took me like a couple weeks, but basically they actually have people who are going and looking at your blog and assessing if it's actually good quality, and based on what they see, then they'll give you a smart score.
It's actually evaluated value add kind of, do you add value to the community or not?
Yes, you do. And so you get a smart score based on what they deem you're either like good content or excellent content, or I think there's 3 different stars. And so you can sell your votes, and you can basically say who you want to sell it to, just anyone or only whitelisted people.
Do us a favor.
And as whitelisted, you're eligible for higher value votes. And so you can just go and transfer. I'm trying to explain.
Into the chat room, please, that link, if you will.
Well, let me finish explaining it first. It's hard for me to type and hold the button to talk, so I just wanted to keep explaining that. You can transfer 5, 10, 20 SPD, whatever, and you pretty much are guaranteed 180 to 210% ROI, as it says. And it's not, Nathan says it's a healthy secret. It's not just a healthy secret. There's a lot of people using it. I watched for a little while. I decided to sell my vote before I started buying votes. And I noticed over and over again, just going and reviewing who was buying my votes, and realized that a lot of them were people I really respect, who I would probably be manually curating anyway, but I quite frankly don't have time to do that. And so I basically just make sure now I don't have any posts that are sitting there at $2 or $3 anymore at payout, because I take some of my SBD and I invest it back in myself. And if they don't have, if there's not enough people to sell you a vote at the time you request it, then they just return the money to you.
So
it's risk free.
I want to stop you there, because you said I'm taking some of my money and I'm investing it back in myself. I mean, that to me is part of the value that BidBots bring, is that it is an investment. It is you investing in the platform. You are giving money to the other people that have invested here. So you are providing an incentive to them to actually hold Steem here. So this, look, Globy and I have been pretty, talking positively about this. Zipporah seems to be moving in the positive direction, at least in terms of the smart market, which is probably one of the most elevated forms of the BidBot service, whereby there is a ranking system, and I do think that's an improvement. So the last piece of this is Claiborne, I think, wanted to come on here and share some thoughts about how I guess they are a negative disruptive force. And so please take it away, Clay.
Okay, well, I want to lead into this by saying I'm overall neutral, but I think people really need to understand how some of these BidBots are operating to better educate themselves and not get screwed over. Now, I know you work with Yaba, and talking with him is, I'm not going to say like one of my posts is what led to the whole ROI cap, but I know it was implemented a week after I made a post exposing some of this. And, I actually really applaud that he would put a limit on a negative ROI cap, so that way people aren't getting screwed over by one of my potential things here that I found. There are some BidBot operators out there that will literally wait until the bids are borderline, you get like 10-20% ROI, and then they'll throw the bids on their own post to actually knock everyone else into negative ROI and just make profit for themselves, because they're paying themselves with their own money. But beyond that, whenever the ROI caps got introduced, I noticed that some of the biggest vote bots are not using a negative ROI cap, but they're using a positive ROI cap. So one night, I want to say about a week or 2 weeks ago, I used Build-A-Well, and I should have got 130-something% ROI, because I caught a really good window, and like I was just straight up gaming the system. It was pure gamble on my part. Why do I get a 10% cap ROI and he has no cap on negative ROI? To me, that tells me right there I'm never using Build-A-Well again.
Yeah, no. But what's nice about the website is that that's transparent. So if I go to steambottracker.com, which some of you have used, some of you haven't, here's my screen. I can go copy that, paste it, Control V. Let me go get this capture. Yevamat has done a really nice job designing this. And so when I look at this thing, you can see that is there a minimum ROI? Is there a maximum ROI? And I personally, when I'm voting or when I'm using BidBots, I'm only using the ones that have a minus 10% max or a minimum. And honestly, something like Promobot's probably the single best bot that you could use right now, because it has a minus 10% minimum ROI and no cap on the maximum ROI, and none of the other ones are doing that. So I'm
right. And whenever this was like, whenever I'm talking about, he was only listing minimum, but this was like right whenever he first introduced this feature. So I'm not like holding that against him or anything, but I do like that it's both minimum and maximum now.
Yeah. No, look, Yabamat is trying to do the single. I think he's awesome. I'm a huge Yabamat fan. It's why when this thing got launched, he was trying to figure out how he could turn this into a business, and people weren't like using it the way he wanted it to. So he asked me to go team up with him, or we met for some food down in Philly. And I said, look, give me half of this business and I'll help promote it. And then after I helped promote it, we were able to go get lots of these bigger accounts to start using this thing, and that's actually paid some money, and it's made this thing fairly successful. And I think part of the reason why I was willing to go partner with him is that he is an honest human being. He is a kind human being. He recognizes that these things have benefits. He recognizes that they have drawbacks, and he spends his time as a developer trying to maximize the benefits and minimize, or at least transparently display, the drawbacks that are a potential. I mean, some of these, my least favorite one of these, for I don't know if they fixed it yet. It seems like I believe that they did, actually, before I make this statement. Um,
So while Argood is typing, a Steam panel here, Clay, Zip, why don't we explain to some of the users who are actually listening, or listeners, what ROI is? Some may not know.
Okay, hold on. So the one that I got really mad at was Boomerang, because Boomerang wasn't showing that its voting time was different. So it had a 3 hour window instead of 2.4 hour. So what it would happen on the Steam bot tracker, and I think this was quite purposeful, is that they would leave it there and it would get to the top where it looks like it was about to vote, and then it would sit there for 20 minutes until it just kept capturing more of the sort of last minute voters, and then it would fill up or even go overboard, and then people were getting negative ROI because it was stuck looking like it was about to go vote, and it would stay there for about 20 minutes. So I yelled at them and I said, you guys got to change this, or else we're no longer going to list you on that, because it's unethical. And they changed it. So I'm not mad at the guys anymore, but I certainly was at the time. Um, but it's stuff like that that I think that we're doing that I think help make this a more ethical business to run, and trying to make bidbots that do have some inherent problems, try to make them more transparent. Um, so there are some absolute haters out there, and I think Globy nails it when he just says they don't understand business. Like you don't see many dolphins or whales like really railing on bidbots anymore. There's a handful that are still out there, but for the most part, they've sort of gone away because most people recognize that, like, either they've just come to terms that these things aren't going away. I mean, Steem Inc. has zero interest. Ned has zero interest in going back to exponential rewards. None. And I think any fight, and most of the top 20 witnesses don't seem to want to go back. And certainly some of the whales that vote in the witnesses that have put in huge amounts of steam into these bid bots aren't looking for these things to go away. I mean, I think Hard Fork 19 and linear rewards and this model isn't going anywhere. So, if that's the case, then the best thing that we can do is sort of make them as transparent as possible, to limit the liabilities that they bring, to increase the benefits as much as possible, and try to use them as sort of an equalizing force, so that a minnow that doesn't have any steam power and just gets on the platform could go write a post, get on trending the second day they're here if they had some like money in Bitcoin and turned it into Steem, and suddenly they could go be a trending author here. And there's something egalitarian about that. And I know it's shitty too that it costs money to do this, but I don't know any other planet or any other system where either advertising is free, or like in Steem, you can go pay for advertising and then get your money back, or at least 90% of it back, a week later. Like, that's unheard of.
Always a value add of some sort. Either you buy value or you put value in with your proof of brain, which is the concept of Steem.
Yeah. And if people really hate bidbots, then the thing to do is to sit around and go flag people that use them, or flag people that buy strong votes. I mean, it's not that hard to find data on who's spending the most on a bidbot. just go flag it or make a bot or hire somebody to make a bot
And if
and
they
put
do
some
that,
SP.
what value do they add? Do they think they are socialist, communist, doing the
Well,
community a good service? I
I'll tell
doubt
you,
it.
there is some benefit. I got to tell you, flagging is actually one of the most noble things you can do on this platform because it costs you money, and at the same time, you are returning. You're returning the rewards back to the reward pool.
So Akot, why is it then that most of the flaggers have SP that they don't own?
I don't know. Are most of the flaggers just simply people that are renting Steem?
No, most of the flaggers are paid hacks. That's my interpretation anyway.
No, I don't. I
I've
doubt
seen it.
that.
You know, guys, I got a different take on flagging in general. I think of it as burning steam, which is the same thing you do if you use the promoted tab. So if you think about it from that aspect that you're basically burning the token instead of distributing it to someone, it actually does increase value to the whole platform.
Yeah, it doesn't actually burn, but it does go back to the reward pool, which basically increases the amount that every other post on the network is going to earn. So when you flag a post, you are returning what you have flagged back into the reward pool, and every single other post suddenly goes up by some, pennies or fractions of pennies. Zipporah.
Can you explain? Thanks, Ags. I was just wondering if you can explain. I didn't realize that flagging actually costs you.
Yeah, so it doesn't actually cost you anything, but it's not
It's
like
just lost potential curation. Is
yeah,
that what?
so right, because remember, there's a 25% reward that goes back to the people that are curating. So if I have $100 vote and I give it to you, then I will get 25% of that back. I'll make $25 by voting on you. If, on the other hand, I'm so mad at Globy for making Planktown and putting bid bots on it, that I decide that I'm going to flag that and I flag it for the $100 vote, I won't get any money back to me. I will, in fact, return $100 to the reward pool because I will have canceled that 100 that was going to go to Globo. Um, so everybody else on the platform will benefit. But I will have personally lost the curation reward because there's no such thing as negative curation rewards. You can get
And
positive curation, but not there's no reward for flagging. So that's what you miss out on.
so I guess that's what I was just trying to clarify. So in my mind, that you're losing potential rewards, and it still costs you the same amount of VP, right?
Yeah, I mean, your pool, when you vote, your voting power will go down the exact same amount if you vote for 100% or flag for 100%. But if you vote for 100%, you'll make 25% of that back. If you flag for 25%, you won't make it. So it's
Gotcha.
not so much as like you actually lose anything. It's not the only thing you've lost is some voting power, but you've lost the rewards that come with that. So this is
Akot, at this stage, I would like to advertise for Rondon's freeze speech because he's providing a service that counters what I would think unjustified flags, and his service is absolutely amazingly beneficial to the community. I think why? Let perhaps Rondon explain himself. Ron, are you ready to come on? Jump in, Ron, quickly.
what I don't know.
That was a Ags. He responded with typing.
Yeah.
So
He's not ready.
Rondon's service is he looks at a post and says, has this post been flagged for merely expressing a value that you may or may not disagree with, for political purposes or whatsoever? What Rondon and his service would not do is inciting violence or that kind of thing. So it's common sense, and most people in the United States and in the West, I have to say, though, have lost their common sense. And Rona and I are totally on the same wavelength, on the same frequency when we say, you know what, we fight unjust downvotes. And you know what? I even fight a downvote against a leftist thing if it is not justified, because this is free speech. So the community is fighting back, and free speech is coming. Free speech is coming with major delegations. So be wary. It's not just 1,000 SP. No. If there are 20 of us to put 1,000 SP in there, we are going to be a formidable force. And this is how the community is going to fight back, Ag.
Yeah. He just lagged. Soundwave's Photon isn't playing around, dropping 1% flags like a mofo.
Nice one. So on a swoop, you're just being a butthead.
You know, the way you said this before about, like, I know Aggard said he thinks of flags as economic violence.
I do.
Okay, and if you think of what you're doing by counteracting flags as a community movement, then you have to also look at the fact that there is a community movement to flag bidbots. So in essence, you're going to war with another community. You're not actually going to war with like some evil dictators. I mean, like, people have different ideologies and different beliefs, different views and perspectives. And I mean, if you really think about it, I can see it both ways. I can see a flag as an economic violence against one person, and I can see a bidbot as an economic violence against everyone else that uses the reward pool.
So I'd actually, for the people, let's see. So there's certain kinds of flagging that I can't stand. Somebody that wants to just have an opinion that's different than mine, so flags my post, doesn't even leave a comment, doesn't even say why they're disagreeing, they just flag it. Bloom comes to mind for that one. Then yeah, I actually think that's a pretty shitty form of flagging. Here's another example that I think sort of falls into the bidbot category. Hagen is certainly a hot topic for people that see his posts get constantly upvoted by Rancho Relaxo, and a lot of people feel like some people feel like he has the right to earn, and some people feel like he earns too much on his posts. And I actually think the sort of flagging there is how you get price discovery on what is his post worth. And it's that middle ground of either you have those two communities coming to battle and figure that out. And I actually think that's a reasonable way for people to figure it out here. I mean, it'd be better with words and better solved other ways, but flagging in that case, I actually think makes sense. For the people that think he can't earn, or that he's earning too much on those posts. And I think the same thing of bidbots. I happen to think that bidbots are a good economic thing. And I think people are welcome to come to the conclusion that, hey, the 2% of the overall voting pool, or the votes that are going through bidbots, are hurting curation. As a result of that, I'm getting less. And because of that, I think that it's hurting me. So I'm going to go flag. You know, I actually don't think that's the end of the world. I think people have the right to use their voting power as they see fit. And if they want to go flag because of rewards disagreements, and they think that bidbots are skewing the rewards, I actually think that's one of the more fair reasons to go use a flag. But there's going to be consequences, and ultimately, I keep going back to Steem is a game. And it is a giant PvP game, player versus player, that you have guilds and teams and communities, and we're all competing for limited resources, and flagging and sort of groups and guilds or whatever. I think that's part of this landscape. And the person that actually showed me that was Fuzzy. Fuzzy was talking when he created Whale Shares. He was talking about building the first guild. And that's actually part of what inspired me to go make Minnow support, of like, you know, that minnows kind of need to get together, and we have to work together if we ever want to get out of the sort of go nowhere quickly. Actually, it took me like 8 months to get anywhere on this platform. And I said, that's bullshit. And it shouldn't take this long. But the way to get around that is community. We need a guild of minnows to basically form a union to go help win this fight against the whales, so that we're not like a totally worthless minority, despite being the vast majority of people on the platform. Like 900,000 accounts are minnow accounts. It's probably even higher than that. And then there's just simply like a couple thousand that are dolphin and whale accounts. So, um, so what's my point? My point is that this place is a game, and some of that flagging I actually think makes sense. And if it, like in the case of abuse, I think it's easier to see on the case of abuse. You go and you steal content from somewhere else, you send a whole bunch of bid bots to upvote it. That I think is pretty easy to declare. Hey, you are doing something that's against community standards, and you're robbing the reward pool, and that should be flagged. And so when you flag that there is an abuse, you decide I will take no shit from this abuse and flag it. I think that's a noble service. I think it's a little bit more of a gray zone just to go flag everybody that uses bid bots or flag Hagen, because I'm not sure that those two groups are doing something bad. But I certainly see that is one of the ways that you can express how you think your voting power should be used to go counter rewards that you think are too big.
Agreed. I mean, I think as long as it's not just blatant opinion flagging, then it's pretty much fair game.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go after, like, okay, you spend $100 on bidbots, then every single post that does that, I'm going to go take my VP and downvote it. I think that's fair. Like, if you're really that much against bidbots, then go flag the people that use them the hardest. And don't make it public. Tell people what you're doing. You probably shouldn't have any posts because they'll get flagged themselves. But just go and tell people what you're doing and start flagging. And frankly, if you do that, there's probably going to be some people that support it and either delegate to you, or if you kind of report on the people that you flagged for that day, there's probably people that will upvote the shit out of your post and thank you for having done it. So that might be a flagging strategy. If you want to go make it on the platform by making your name through flag wars, then you might have fun doing that. And I actually think that's an okay thing for you to do. It's not something that I will support, but I support people's right to go use their voting power as they see fit, because that's how this platform is supposed to work. You do the shit you want to do.
Right. I just, to me, it's like whenever we get into that whole us and them mentality, when like putting people on different sides of a line, I think it just leads to a lot of dehumanization. And you start seeing other people as, the enemy or less than. And it doesn't really try to reach any kind of common ground. So I think like whenever we try to understand why other people are doing the things they're doing and actually see things from their perspective, we can often, not always, is in the case of some of the more egregious people we've seen on the platform. But I mean, I think general human nature is we can usually come to some kind of middle ground and understanding for the most part.
So, Agod, can I just offer a solution? Perhaps you as a witness could have some influence there. Why not restrict those people who have delegated power from downvoting because they don't really have a stake? I think it's unfair that people who have no, how do I say, actually invested power, they are funded by somebody else. It's like by a foreign power. It's like the Chinese invade the US as it happens. And by the way, Agod, I'm doing a infograph on that. I'm working on this very, very hard. So it's going to take me a couple of weeks to get that together for us to understand where the Chinese are coming from. That said, from a developer perspective on Steam, pardon me, why not restrict any delegated power from downvoting? You can only downvote if you have actually earned it, if you own it. What do you think?
No, I'm going the other way. I think downvoting is useful. I think there's not enough downvoting, and I think what I've proposed, and I put it in a couple posts over the last 3 or 4 months, is there should be three types of voting: upvoting, downvoting, and flagging. Upvoting increases rewards and increases rep. Downvoting decreases rewards but doesn't touch your rep, and flagging will decrease your rewards and decrease your rep. And a downvote basically means, I just disagree with how much this post is earning. And a flag means I disagree with how much this post is earning, and I hope they can't earn here anymore because you're hurting their reputation, which is one of the only numbers outside of Steam Power that actually determines how much you can get.
The point I'm trying to make is this. I agree with your notion of the threefold downvotes, but I would restrict the downvote capability to those who have actually own a stake, not those who have been delegated a stake, because it's being abused in my view. I'm being downvoted.
Think about Steam cleaners. Think about Steam cleaners. Steam cleaners, it doesn't earn that stake. They're a group that sits around and downvotes the hell out of all this crap content.
That shit face Bloom is part of Steam cleaners. Sorry, my French, but this piece of crap is aligned to Steam cleaners, who is an honorable, in my view, organization. Yet questionable people attach themselves to that, make themselves legitimate, and that I don't agree with.
Go.
Wait, can I just jump in really quick?
Please. Hey, don't feel bad. You just got to yell at the boys and tell them to shut up.
I know. I'm going to excuse myself because there's somebody who needs some support over in the Kindness Collective. And
okay.
When we've got a 16-year-old who's suicidal, I'm going to go and try to do my best to make sure that they don't feel alone.
All right. Well, then you're a kind soul. Thank you for doing that.
That's what I created that space for, right? So
right.
Thank you so much for having me on. I learned a lot. You guys are awesome, and keep fighting the good fight. Flag all those assholes and use the bots if you need them.
We love you.
Oh, Zippy's making my night. All right, so this whole show is supposed to be about abundance, and I mostly complained about a whole bunch of bitchy little Steemians that don't understand how economics works. But to me, having this discussion is really about, I want you to understand how, look, I'm a whale that's like, I have invested money in this, but the amount of money that I've gotten here, like it's Steem at $3, I've probably made a total of 330 to 350,000 starting from nothing in a year and a half. That's pretty good. And it wasn't until actually pretty recently the amount of money that I made from witnessing is higher than the amount of money that I've made from my posting. And so I feel like for a guy that started with nothing, and I didn't know anybody on this platform, and this is the first crypto I've ever been involved in, I've gotten here pretty far in a pretty short amount of time. And I started by being an asshat, and then I worked my way up, and I figured out how this place works, and I learned a lot about how to actually turn this thing into something good. And so my thought process here is really about trying to share that. Like 90% of the intention of even building the Peace, Abundance, and Liberty Network is, I said, it took me 8 months to get anywhere on the platform. This platform's amazing, and that's way too fucking long. We got to make it easier for people to be successful here. And that's how this place got started. I said, we need a community zone. We need a community place where people can go like network and grow and figure out how to go from being a minnow to a dolphin. And that's really important to me. But I figured that out over the course of a year, having done it the wrong way, figured out the right way. And then I've at times been able to go actually like build upon that success. And in part, I figured out ways to go use BidBots to go either earn or get promotion or grow my account. And I want other people to see that. And, if you sometimes the weirdest ones to me, the weirdest folks And I kind of got away from this discussion, but the weirdest one is that like Acid Joe was giving me shit left and right for using bid bots on some of the posts that I was doing. And then I look over there and it's like, you fucking rented delegation. You know, that's the pot calling the kettle black. So, you know, when one of your beefs here, Globy, is like Beans is flagging me, but she's flagging me for using bid bots when she has this big delegation. That's like
Exactly.
total doublespeak. And I get that. But, you
And
know,
that gets my blood boiling. I go, that totally gets my blood boiling. Fuck that.
don't let the bastards get you down.
Right, right. This is actually exactly what I wanted to talk about because, I mean, I feel like earlier, Globo, you were saying you encourage people to invest in themselves and use these bit bots,
Yes,
but you
sir.
gotta realize that renting Steam power is the same thing as investing in yourself.
Well, you know what, Clay? I invested several $1,000s in.
You don't think Beans invested several $1,000s to rent that much Steam power for how long she's had it? Because, like, I assure you, she had to have. Nobody just gave her that.
Beans is a piece of shit in my.
Well, right, but see what you're doing right now is you're completely dehumanizing somebody and like trying to basically just say I'm right, they're wrong, and you're not trying to consider that other people have a
I
valid
don't
opinion.
dehumanize her. I just call her what she is because she is a parasite. In my humble view, you add value. It's a very simple philosophy I have. You either add value or take value away. My German comes through, but you know what? I add value to the community. At least I hope so. And if somebody flags me for not adding value, which I have not done. If you scroll through my 3,000 posts, I have not a single post that I haven't added value. And there are just 5 characters who consistently flag me. And, you know, the bigger I get, the more how would I say is it's less it's less relevant, you know, these little thingies become. Clay, we have to understand we cannot do a socialist system because we always take away from somebody. When we look at it from a point of how you add value, and if I only look at this, my own life, and that posts of others, how does that post add value to somebody else? If I only go from that um, philosophy, if you will, being philosophy and coffee yourself, then I would think you would be on the right side of things instead of arguing. The real question is, are we adding value or are we taking value away? And I hate people who just parasite on value creators.
Yeah,
Right. I'm not trying to justify that she should be going around flagging you. What I'm trying to say is people have a very subjective view on what is adding value. Like I'm saying, take yourself out of the equation and don't take it personally. Let's say she thinks that using bid bots is a problem and flagging that $10 and redistributing it to everybody that's not using bid bots is adding value to the platform. So you can see where one person thinks that something that is perceived negatively by the person impacted is adding value in their mind, but in your mind, she's taking value away. When in your
Without
mind,
without actually having looked at the value of the post, that is the problem.
see,
So
I you know I can actually understand why she would go and flag posts using bid bots, but I think you also have to go sort of look at the content and you either announce you're just flagging all bidbot posts, and I could actually respect that. But to just sort of target that one, I think is totally insane. Planktown actually looks freaking cool. It's here's a cartoon and an animation that's meant to go represent the Steem blockchain and people on it, and sort of those sort of humorous interactions that people are having. That I actually think could be quite appealing and help bring people to the network and the platform. You know, using bidbots on that,
it brings people together. That's the point of it.
And it's at best or at worst like a neutral post. To me, it's actually a pretty good one in that you're going to go spread the value of the blockchain and try to get more people to view this. I actually think that's the kind of thing that helps attract people here and is good for growth and good for the price of Steem. That's a really shitty post to flag. Something like my post, which was the QAnon forum, and that QAnon forum is like conspiracy driven and much more of
Yeah.
like has some right wing tendencies to it. That's actually a lot more understandable that somebody would flag that. And I could see how it could be hard to argue that that's going to bring as much value to the network. But what Globo was doing with the Bug IQ, that thing is just cool as hell, and her flag is totally uncalled for there. Um, I don't know. I'm pretty disappointed that she would let her anger at Bidbots get in her way of looking at a post that's good for the network and saying, "Hey, this is actually a pretty good use for this." Like that is the perfect use case. The perfect use case is here is a post that is going to grow and benefit the network by sharing this content and this place with more people. And if we support that with the bid bots, that's exactly the use case that we want. And that's exactly the use case she's flagging.
Yeah, we
That's
we
bad.
want to promote quality shit, right?
Right,
Okay.
right. Like I'm not trying to say anything about your post and saying she should or shouldn't have flagged it. Like, if you'll share your post, I'll probably go upvote it. I'm just saying, like, I think you got to look at people as more dynamic than just somebody that attacked you.
Yeah,
It's not.
I can agree
It's
with
not
that.
about attacking because I looked at Beans and I'm looking where her money is coming from, and the adage goes always follow the money. And what I find then is that Beans is corrupt, in my humble view.
So what about the person that's renting her the Steam power? Like, why are they enabling that?
Well, that's a good question, though, and I don't have the answer to that, to be honest. But nevertheless, we have, Planktown has more power today than it had 5 days ago. So there were what 5 downvotes versus like 600 upvotes, and that speaks for the value the community thinks it has.
So I'm looking at her Steam D. I can confirm the fact that Beans transfers 70 Steam to Smooth B. So it does certainly look like she's paying for this. She's not just Google, or you don't need, just do steam.com/at at Planktown, and that'll get you there, Clay.
Okay, so if we know, okay, so it's at Planktown.
Yep.
So if we know she's paying for this delegation, and we know she's flagging with it, like honestly, just I'm saying, try to hear me out on this.
No,
If we
no,
know
I'm
she's
sorry.
paying for the delegation,
She unapproved Smooth as a witness. So the person she is the person she's renting the delegation from, she just unapproved as a witness. I think that's funny. I'm not laughing at anything you're saying. I'm just staring at her Steam D and
honestly,
thinking
that
this
that is
makes no
something.
sense.
That is something I made in a post like originally whenever all this renting SP started. I said it would be hilarious to me if you rented the SP from the same people that you went and flagged and unvoted and like got them out of their witness slots with. So what
Well,
I'm saying is, even if what she's doing may seem like psychotic to you in the moment, maybe in her mind she's playing a meta game to like actually take out big players. Like, I mean, we just don't know. But I'm saying, like, if you talk to them and try to like come to some kind of middle ground, you can probably get her to remove the flag if you explain that you're trying to create something of value for the platform and you're not just trying to pay yourself to bump it into trending. Maybe she'll remove it.
That's just the thing, Clay. You can't talk to these people. Both
I can talk to Beans right now. I have her in my inbox and I have her on Telegram.
Echo?
both the Bug IQ and I have tried, and this person is not to be reasoned with.
Well, all I'm gonna say is she did witness partner with.
Yeah. I mean, so here's a whole bunch of her flags. It looks like she spent the day flagging. Oh, here's Shark School. She got rid of Shark School. I mean, I think she just spent 1 day of voting power downvoting all these people that are in that probably use bid bots. I'm just taking a guess there, but here's a subsection of what she did. Control A, control copy. Um, so I don't know. She's running around flagging shit. I mean, frankly, I think she has the right to do this. I just think that this is a really dumb battle to pick.
The point comes back to this, in my humble view. Beans doesn't own any of her SP she uses. None.
It is
Okay,
highly
but
ironic.
neither do people using bidbots. So that I'm saying that argument's 100% invalid in my mind. If you're using
Well,
bidbots, it's the
it's
same
not in
thing as
my
running a
view,
stake.
Clay. If in my view, you have to earn your right to downvote people and to buy
But
votes.
you don't have to earn your right to vote yourself into trending.
Well, I earned my right in terms of I earned my SPD, I earned my Steem.
Okay, but we just went through this. She earned her Steam
Yeah,
to pay for the delegation.
She
You can't have it both
didn't
ways,
earn
Bobby.
anything. She is a parasite, in my humble view.
Well, I actually agree with both of you. Not that I can't go so far as she's a parasite. I don't hate beans. I do think that she is misguided here, and I don't think that it's good to dehumanize her as just a parasite. I mean, she's a person that thinks that she's doing something good for the network by downvoting people that are using bidbots. I just happen to think that it's highly idiotic, especially because of the irony of the fact that she's renting delegation. You know, there's very little difference between renting delegation and using a bid bot. The only difference is a time frame. You know, like a delegation rental is where you're renting Steam for a long time. A bid bot is where you're renting Steam for a very short period of time. So it's just completely ironic and idiotic for somebody to go sit there and shit on people that are using bid bots, especially when they're delegating. But
All right,
I
I think
don't
we
think that makes her a parasite. I mean, I do think she has an idiotic plan, but I see both. I see. Um, I think you both
Perhaps
have good points.
I'm much more aggressive in my thinking than you are, but I recognize a person who doesn't add value because I don't think she adds value to the community, to be honest.
She runs the Votu podcast. She has
Yeah,
her
and
clique and her
I
clan.
unsubscribe from that because where's the value in downvoting people who invest in a legitimate business?
I mean, look,
Where's
for
the
two
value?
truthers, I can't believe neither one of you sees the obvious, like, logical flaw here. You realize you're
No,
both paying whales to hurt each other. You're essentially third world countries paying America to bomb each other.
I don't understand.
Oh,
Can you
you're going
elaborate
way
this?
off.
Yeah,
You're going
Okay.
way off.
elaborate
You're
that down.
paying. Whenever you're paying for bid bots, you're basically paying for large stakeholders to rent their SP short term and pay yourself.
Correct.
Whenever you rent delegation and flag someone, you're paying a will to rent you that delegation to flag another peasant in their minds.
Yeah, so you're
You're not
basically
hurting the people that actually control wealth. What you're doing is you're hurting each other, and they're still raking in money, so they don't give a fuck.
yeah, so you're saying that they're basically the military industrial complex that are selling arms and they don't care who they sell the arms to as long as you're buying. So it
Right,
doesn't
I'm saying there's a lot bigger fight going on here than you and Beans. I think getting caught up on like that is missing like the forest for the trees here.
Yeah, I can certainly see part of that. I think I'd go with um I don't think that I want to call every single investor that's investing in the Steam platform, especially those that have enough where it can matter to go run a bid bot, that they are all arms dealers of the worst order. You know, those are the people. The fact that we have $3 Steam is because people are buying Steam. And the Venezuelans that are here that are buying Steam where the depressed economy, you know, they're probably not the ones that are buying enough Steam to elevate the price to $3. The people that are doing that are the rich motherfuckers of the world, or the handful of devs that aren't selling, and they're the people that are elevating this price. And I don't think that we should be demonizing them. They're not all bad people, and just because they don't want to sit around and curate Like some millionaire doesn't want to sit around and go pick 10 posts a day on this platform. They just want to make money. They don't care about the curation. And I think that's okay. I still want their money in this platform. I still want this place to grow. And I don't think that we should be sitting here demonizing every single investor on the Steem network. We want those millionaires here. They're not evil. And just because they're apathetic about your post on philosophy or my post on conspiracy or any post on this fucking network, that doesn't make them bad. They're just that's not their interest. Their interest is making money. And if they can do that here, it's great for us because the price goes up. And
So
now your post isn't an 8-cent post, it's a 20-cent post or whatever. The people that are buying Steem and holding on to it and using it as bid bots, yes, they are skewing some of the rewards, but they are elevating the price of Steem for all of us. And I don't think that we should be demonizing them.
So Clay, if I may ask you, what is your solution then, as you see it? Because you seem to me quite idealistic.
My solution is and has always been make curation profitable to where it's more profitable than it is to sell votes. Like that's 100% the problem. If these people could make money like trailing other people's votes, and they could make more money than they could selling their votes to bid bots, you think they would be doing that?
So
Like it's just like what Edgar had said. All they want to do is make money for like the least amount of actual effort to put into it. Like just make the effort shift to curation, and you distribute rewards exponentially.
So there's another option here that I think it was Clayop that taught me that I actually really like. And as soon as some of the next hard forks are done, this is actually one of the other things that I would be a strong proponent of. They basically want to make it so that not only is there, you have Steem and you have Steem Power, and Steem is sort of a liquid version, and Steem Power is locked up. But there would be a third option, which would be something like have your Steem Power, but you don't get a vote at all. You are choosing to put your Steem Power into like a safe lockbox, and you don't have to participate in curation at all. And for that, you would get a certain amount of return that's higher than what you're getting now. And that would be sort of an investor class way that you could go buy Steem Power, lock it up, get a return, but not skew or screw up the sort of overall voting mechanism that's happening on the platform. And that's another thing I would actually strongly support. I think that's pretty cool.
So Agro, on that note, how much support do you have actually from other witnesses to that philosophy, if I may call it like that?
Um, Tough to know. I mean, I think that there are a fair amount of whales that have suppressed or supported or stated their support, but I don't think that's the limiting reagent right now. There's a bunch of things that I think there's some consensus between the witnesses of what we should be working on. I think the bigger challenge is that yes, having a sort of lockbox Steem version that's an investor class way to go store your Steem and get a better return, that is of interest. But I think most of us would recognize that velocity is more important, community is more important, and SMTs are more important. So it's
Yeah,
not
we,
it,
we got to grow this community, don't we? That's our main interest.
right. And so, that would impact a handful of medium term and long term investors. And so that is a useful endeavor. But something like velocity that would make it so that people could actually join this platform in mass and we could handle that. I think that is absolutely much more important. And I think a lot of the other witnesses do too. So I don't think that we really have a lack of will so much to implement something like that. I think we just don't have enough dev resources to both get the mega hard forks that we need accomplished done and have that completed first and then get to something else. And when we get to something else, I'll be the first person to go argue, yeah, let's get a separate downvoting pools to help fix the distribution of rewards. Let's go make an investor class of a way that you can store your SP so that you can earn and get a higher rate of return, but not screw with the with voting at all or something like that. I think that's good too. But they're just not as important as something like velocity. So I think
Can
2018
can
is
can
gone.
I ask you another question though? That's on my mind. How much influence do you personally, as a top 20 witness, have on the development on Steam? That
Um,
is quite interesting for me to know, and probably for most of our listeners.
I think Steam. I think most of this is what Ned wants, and I think it's Ned and the internal Steemit team decides about 80% of what they're going to do, and I think roughly 10 to 20% of what is supposed to happen is based off of either feedback from the witnesses or overwhelming community outcry. I mean, a lot of the devs are so busy that they don't even post, they don't even use the platform. They're just sitting around and like making tweaks to the GitHub repositories. They're not, frankly, I post like 3 times a day right now. I think I have as much or more posts in a week than the rest of the top 20 witnesses combined. That's just not how a lot of them choose to go spend their time. And a lot of them don't really curate that much. They're not like diving into the platform on that level. They're building apps, they're building communities, they're getting us on different exchanges, they're writing transfer reports, they're doing stuff, but it's not always like it's not the same activities that a minnow is going to do on the platform. So they're not using it. And I think that the Steemit people are busier than most and really use it least of all. And as a consequence, um, they they seem to live in a bit of a bubble, and at times we have some influence and at times we can direct where they're going, but right now is kind of a funky time where the main goals of Steam It and the desires of the witnesses are extremely strongly aligned, and if
So
it
I got then I see some comments here in the audience saying, "Well, that doesn't sound like very decentralized, does it?"
yeah, I mean that's one of the major concerns. Like, um, but again, I'd say this is a funky time because in the past it has definitely been there have been times that the witnesses have rejected hard forks that Steemit has put together. So I wouldn't say that we don't have an impact, but this is a special time in that the 3 mega projects that Steemit is working on have almost unanimous support as the highest priorities of what Steemit really ought to be working on. So we're mostly in kind of a holding pattern until those things are released, and then after that, I think the fights are going to pick up. Of okay, we all I think most of the top 20 witnesses strongly agree that communities, velocity, and SMTs are the right next step. But then what do you do after that? When the resources aren't totally consumed by those 3 projects, then what's our next highest priority? I think there's going to be some fighting about that. So I think 2019 is going to be a tumultuous year for witnesses. I think 2018 is basically in the bag for the projects that are already sort of on the burner or already getting worked on. But I think 2019 is going to be pretty contentious because the question is going to be how do we fix curation? Some people want to start from scratch and totally rebuild this. Other people want to add downvoting pools. Other people think that that's not what we ought to be working on, and we ought to be, um, you know, pegging the SBD. Like
Yeah.
what we
So
do after these.
all these great ideas are good. Let me ask you this, and Clay, feel free to jump in here. How do minnows, because this is minnow mares here, right, on MSP Waves Radio, how do minnows have a say? Because it seems to me like that, yeah, you have power, Arc. Um, I have limited power. Nobody listens to me, even though I'm a dolphin. Um, but how do actual users, the majority of Steemit users, have actual influence and make that known
You gotta
to
you gotta
to
organize. There's no other way to do this. You gotta organize. You gotta go. You and you can take something like the Minnow Support Project that now has 17,000 people in it, and you have to go find like-minded folks and say, hey, look, here's our concern. We hate bid bots. We have to organize. Here's our concern. Curation is broken. You have to organize. You got to get loud enough. And like, if you have 3 million SP, then yeah, you can get net zero. If you don't have 3 million SP and you have 8, then you have to go find enough people on this platform that care about the same thing as you. And I think that starts by finding other small accounts that are bothered by the same thing that you are, and then say, hey, we're a union of 20 people that are pissed off. We're looking for dolphins. And then you get some dolphins in there. And then you say, hey, we're a union of, a couple hundred people, and we all have the same concern, and people aren't listening to us. And we elected you as a witness. We want you to pay attention, or come on Minnow Town Hall, or go spam comments of prominent people around here. You got to find your allies. You got to organize. I mean, this at some point this is going to turn into like political parties on here, and you're going to have all that same sort of politics of work of
Did
like,
you
how do
just
we
say
do this?
it's going to be the same military-industrial complex?
I don't think it's going to be that bad.
Well, look, let me throw in my 2 cents, since that sounded like it was directed at both of us, and then I got to go get ready to go on air. But just kind of like what Agro was saying, you got to get people together. Okay, if we think about the fact that 100 accounts own something like 90 whatever percent of the Steem, then how many of us are actually the users of the platform? Because the platform has no purpose without users.
64,000. You can go find that in Penguin Pablo. He's got. I'll drop that in chat.
So my general theory is, if you take 30,000 of those 60,000 users, and you say, hey, look, I've been bitching for 2 years that you want to add a fucking Steem tab to my goddamn post, my page, and I mean, this is a simple fix. Like, it's a couple lines of code to separate my post from these Steams so that I can curate more efficiently. You know what? If you don't do it, like, I'm fed up. After 2 years, I will leave your platform and go to a competitor. I mean, I think at some point you actually have to be willing to leave it behind and, stand your ground.
Yeah, I think that one in particular, I don't think that they're unsympathetic. I think it got looped into what happens with communities and what happens with hive mind. And so the simple fix that they could go put into the browser now would get obsolete quite quickly when they get to the next level of this. So rather than devote limited dev resources to a fix that is going to get overwritten anyways, I think that they're just spending all of their time trying to fix AppBase and HiveMind so that the next iteration of this block works. So, what we're using now is basically going to get deprecated, and so any resources that you put into the current changes doesn't make a lot of sense. So it's not that they don't care. It's not that they don't hear you. It's just that the way that they're going to implement it is going to be in the next generation code, not the last generation code. And it's just taking them way longer than basically anybody thought it would take them to do, because code is hard.
But Agro, this temporary solution that they could have added just to fix it on the browser side, I mean, like this has literally been a debate as long as Steams have existed.
Okay. Then
I'm saying, if you want to keep talking about putting it off for communities, why couldn't we have the Band-Aid while we waited for communities?
Because the person that would implement that would have to be taken off of communities to go implement Band-Aids.
So for 2 hours of coding a Band-Aid to appease a lot of people, they don't think that that's worthwhile from like a retaining user standpoint?
I think that they didn't think that communities would take anywhere near as long as it did. And so I think that they said, yeah, I could do that, but in a month from now it'll be ready. So why would I do that? And then a month became 5, and it didn't make, in that regard, you could have looked back and said, yeah, maybe we could have implemented it. And maybe they could still, but I would tend to think that, I worked for publishing companies, and as soon as they made the decision that they're going to deprecate code, you couldn't get any resources devoted to the old version. And I've seen that before, and it makes sense. I think that it's frustrating to users, but from a business perspective, you have limited resources, and on the flip side, you have all these people that are waiting for communities, and if you stop working on communities to go add to deprecated code, you're going to have a lot of users turn around and say, what the hell are you doing? Why are you spending time on that version that you're going to get rid of? We need you to go get this freaking thing out. This is going to make a 10x difference in the price of Steem when you can actually run businesses, communities, churches, whatever through the Steem platform and have that be really easy. You won't have to build 4 pieces of code just to make something like that work. Um, you know, I understand your frustration. I totally get it, and I've lived through it professionally. And I also understand the decision that Ned's under. That's a impossible position to please everybody, and I think he chose go with the next project rather than put effort into the last one, in part based off of a false pretense that it would be a lot shorter to get done than what he's working on.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. There's always decisions that have to be made. A lot of times I feel like they don't focus on actual users. And like, I think that's to me like the biggest,
I think
kind
that's
of like,
100% correct. I think they think Ned at one point in one of his conversations, somebody asked him what's Steem, and he said it's a blockchain designed for decentralized applications. Um, and that shocked the shit out of me. We have like 8 decentralized applications on here, and we have 60,000 active bloggers. I mean, to me, the definition of this place would be it's a blogging community that has a cryptocurrency built into it that also supports decentralized applications. But that's not how Ned and how Steemit thinks about this place. They think about this place as um, a decentralized application blockchain. And I get it because that the decentralized apps are that's the long-term goal, where you can do anything you need with this blockchain. And so I can understand why Steemit is focused on that. But I think that vision that Ned has for what his company is the reason why you're saying and hearing, hey, I'm not getting that experience. I mean, I think his answer would be, look, we're not here to go build really. Steemit.com isn't the main function of this website. You guys should go build your own Steemit. You should go build your own condenser. You should go build your own portal into the blockchain. We are a blockchain company, not a front end company to go view it how you want.
I got my friend, if I may interject here.
Yeah.
The main thing for our listeners to understand, I think, is this. There's a difference between Steemit.com and Steem. Steem is a cryptocurrency that is redeemable. Steemit.com is just the interface.
And
Now,
Steemit Inc. is a company. I mean, there's 3 things. Yeah. Go do your check. Are you starting in 6 minutes?
correct.
Okay. Well, I'll be off by then. I won't be done with my rage, but we'll be done by then.
now I'll be listening, Clay.
What are we talking philosophy tonight? Is this poetry? What's Clay doing?
Yeah, Clay, give us a synopsis of your show today, please.
He's in msp-waves reading room, and he doesn't have Ron in there. I don't think they can hear us.
He's so lame.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a difference, isn't there, Agod, between Steem and Steemit and Steemit Inc.
And Steemit.com.
Explain it, please.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. I don't have anything to add to that. Steem is a blockchain and a cryptocurrency. Steemit.com is a website to view that. And the last one is Steemit Inc., and that's a company that works on the blockchain side of things. And I actually totally respect the idea that, look, we're not here to go change every little tiny bit of an interface for you.
Sorry to interrupt you, Ag. When you and I invest, we put money into Steem, or if any of us upvote or downvote or get rewards, where is this coming from? Is this coming from Steem, Steam at Inc., or what the?
No, the blockchain is what gives you the value. To me, you own a portion of the blockchain. So you like when I own 100,000 Steem, and there's 270 million Steem in existence. So if I take 100,000 and I divide that by 270, which I actually think is closer to, that can't be right. 100,000 and divide that by 270 million. And then I times that by 100. Then my percent, I personally own 0.037% of the blockchain. That's my
Not too
ownership.
shabby. Not too shabby. So when you invest, what do you actually invest in? This is what I want.
I'm investing in the blockchain itself. What I'm actually
But it doesn't make sense to people who are new here. So are they investing in Steem, Steemit.com, or in Steemit Inc.?
It's not Steem and Inc. Steem and Inc. is a private corporation that is separate from Steem. So I certainly don't own that. Steemit.com is a website that is operated by Steemit Inc. And so it's certainly not that because I don't own the website by the company that I didn't purchase. What you own is a percent of the blockchain. So the blockchain itself is a program called SteemD. You own, what you basically have is a percent ownership of the blockchain, and you actually get to determine where platform inflation goes. I'm getting anxious because I can't describe this in 3 minutes, but let me give you the cliff notes. There's 260 million Steem in existence. There's a 9% platform inflation, and I'll call it 10% for easy math. That means that this year, from now until a year from now, we're going to print roughly 27 million Steem. And when you upvote, you are basically deciding with your ownership where that Steem is going to get allotted to. So if you think about this like owning a stock, if you own 10 shares of IBM, you don't get a lot of dividend interest from that. If you own 1,000,000 shares of IBM, you do get a lot of dividend interest. So if you own a lot of the Steem power, you can basically direct where that inflation is going, and you can think of that as inflation of what the dividend would be if you were owning a typical stock. The difference, though, is that when you own a dividend, nobody's like, well, who did you give that dividend to? You just give it to yourself. On Steem, it's a really big question of who did you give that dividend to, because if you give it to yourself, you get viewed as sort of an asshole. So what you own is a portion of the blockchain, and what you get to decide is where does that inflation or where does the platform inflation go, and you get to determine that, and you get to determine what witnesses are going to help build the network and build the blockchain and make the future decisions about how this whole place will be run. And so
We have about, Agod, we have about 30 seconds until we go to the
you're
next.
listening to msp-waves radio. I'm your host, Agrode, for the Peace Academy. I've been joined by Claiborne and Globocop and the lovely Zipporah. We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us. Up next, we're going to have Claiborne. And Claiborne, I believe, will have Sir Lunch, the host, and they're going to give us either philosophy, poetry, or some other P word.
It was awesome to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Globy. This was fun. You've been listening to msp-waves radio. I'm your host, Agrode, signing off. Currently Witness 12, and tip your waitresses. See you guys.